Today at Let's Talk Marketplace, it's all about do-it-yourself and home improvement.
Inaki Maillard, Managing Director of the Global DIY Summit, the biggest CEO industry gathering in Europe, has joined us to give us an inside view into an industry faced with massive changes.
We talk about why marketplaces are popping up everywhere in the industry now and why just about every part of the marketplace business is a challenge for DIY brands and retailers.
Why is why we are working on a virtual special for you. Stay tuned for that September 27th and have a fun listening.
Let's Talk Marketplace.
The Marketplace podcast with Ingrid Lommer and Valerie Dichtel.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Let's Talk Marketplace time. Here for you, as always, Ingrid and my charming business wife, Valerie Dichtel. I'm allowed to call you that now because we're officially official, after all.
Yeah, indeed we are. The founding of our company is in the books, finally. We braved all stages of German bureaucracy. Oh God, this word. We didn't falter even if the face of enemies such as several different contracts or Statusfeststellungsverfahren. We have finally our tax ID and there's even a company stamp on your letterbox. We are definitely official now, baby. Okay, maybe there's just a few things are missing.
But, we won't talk about that, just to not spoil the mood. But anyway, it was great to celebrate our founding on Saturday. Families and colleagues sharing barbecue and drinks in my garden and just taking the time to, feel the joy, sort of, because it's really easy to miss that in the middle of all the hustle that we are in at the moment.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that we can finally celebrate this also together. And as we are a completely remote team, I also finally got to know one of our team members in real life. And that was really, really nice. So, yeah, that's, makes all the hustle so much more worthwhile. Yeah, and I'm sure today's guest can absolutely relate to that because he has a lot of hustle in his work. And had in June and just came back from a lovely holiday to relax afterwards. A very warm welcome to Inaki Maillard, Managing Director of the Global DIY Summit, the biggest gathering of CEOs of the DIY industry in Europe. Great to have you here, Inaki.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, Ingrid. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Good to have you in the show now, Inaki. We've been talking about the DIY industry quite a lot this year at Let's Talk Marketplace and how the segment is quickly turning into some kind of marketplace gold rush at the moment. So I'm really happy to have you here and hear a true inside view from the industry. We got to know each other a few months ago when actually you contacted us because of our marketplace quadrant for the DIY industry. But I must admit, before our first call, I had actually never heard of the Global DIY Summit before. Shame on me. So I did a quick research after that and was completely blown away to find out about the sheer size of that thing. So from one conference manager to another, tell us a bit more about your baby. What is the Global DIY Summit and what does your work for it entail?
Yeah, well, the Global DIY Summit started in 2010. It was an idea from two associations. One of them is the Home Improvement Manufacturers Association. The other one is the European DIY Retail Association. At the beginning, that they wanted to organize an event where CEOs from the retail side and the manufacturing side met. And the idea was that they could do networking, exchange views. And well, at the beginning, it was just a European gathering, but it became so successful that people from Australia, North America, South America, Africa started joining the event, and then it became global. So it started very, very small, and now it's a huge event. I would say that at this point is the most important networking event in the home improvement industry because we bring managing directors, C-level managers from all over the world, and mainly all companies in our industry and represented there. But if you want to find people from Home Depot or Lowe's in America or Bunnings in Australia, the Global DIY Summit is the right place to visit.
Wow. Okay. And Inaki, how did you get into this position?
Yeah, well, that's a funny story. Like, it's not that I planned it or that it was my goal after university. I came to study to Germany, the University of Bonn. I did a master's in economics and European law. And the truth is that I want to go back to Spain. 2 weeks before taking my flight to Spain, the managing director of the Home Improvement Manufacturers Association contacted me, told me that there was a new project called the Global DIY Summit. And then he invited me for an interview. There was a good chemistry between both of us. And then I said, well, I'm going to try 1 year, 2 years, and then I go back to Spain. But you have to remember at that time, it was 2008, where there was a huge financial crisis worldwide. And Spain was one of the countries that was affected mostly. So at the end, I stayed in Germany, and I don't regret it because it is an amazing project what we built together with the retailers and the manufacturers. And I feel really proud.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can be.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
right.
How many people are there? I just like to squeeze in one question, because what means big, Inaki?
Yes, I mean, big, you need to consider that it's a C-level event. So for a C-level event, you cannot bring 10,000 or something.
Yeah.
But our event brings 1,000 C-level managers from the most relevant companies in the home improvement industry. So that's big for us, 1,000 C-level.
Yeah, that is big.
That's really impressive, yes. Absolutely. So when did the topic of online marketplaces first pop up on your sphere of attention?
Well, I mean, in my personally, long time ago, because I've been attending retail events since 2011. So this is not a new topic. But in the home improvement industry, I think that the pandemic was a huge change, because the pandemic represented a global workshop, of digitalization, where everyone was forced to increase their online channels because basically we all were staying at home. So I would say that the breaking point was 2020, but it is true that some retailers started early. Like, for example, Grupo Adeo launched their first marketplace in Brazil in 2017, but in Europe, it started in 2020. So that's why I would say the pandemic plays a huge role to initiate this conversation, online marketplaces.
Right. We'll talk a lot more about this shift in your industry and what the role marketplaces play there now and what they're going to play in the future. After a quick look at last week's most important marketplace news. But before we do that, let's talk a bit about the future first. Let's talk about Christmas. Yeah, that's right. It's nearly August, so it's high time to start thinking about the peak season. After all, you wouldn't want your logistics teams to fall short during Black Week, would you? But don't worry, we've got you covered with our next webinar on July 31st.
Yeah, that's right. Our next webinar will be all about Q4 readiness and logistics. We will be talking about how fashion, lifestyle, sports, and beauty brands in particular can set up their marketplace logistics so that they get through Q4 in a good shape. And we will also talk about, the main challenges in those industries in terms of logistics.
We've brought on board absolute experts on the subject of logistics from our sponsor partner, Best Solutions, namely Magnus Weiss and Ute Wackel-Odo. And in the webinar, they, together with Valerie, will explain to you which brands are worth having their own B2C logistics and which might be better off relying on a full-service partner, how to protect your logistics from an overload collapse in the peak season, and, as Valerie said, which logistical challenges lurk in which product ranges. And of course, Valerie will make sure, as always, that you as the participants can ask all your questions.
Yeah, that's right. As usual with our webinars, there will once again be an in-depth session for a Q&A, and we will focus entirely on your individual logistic challenges. So make sure to be there next Wednesday. We'll link you the registration page in the show notes when we decide to, when we dedicate an hour to your Q4 readiness on July 31st at 11 a.m. in English.
Right. So that was our quick look to Christmas. And now let's have a look at last week and see what the news were.
Newsflash.
Right. So what do I have here? It was Prime Day, of course. So the first figures rolled in, and it seems that Amazon has once again scored a record Prime Day, at least in the US, because that's where the figures come from at the moment. And Prime Day sales grew by 11% to a thrilling $14.2 billion. So another record. It seems Amazon is not quite, I don't know, impressed by everything that TikTok Shop and Temu and whatever are doing. Also, it seems. Have you heard anything from Prime Day, Valerie?
Well, I'm guilty too, so
Me too, actually.
I finally got my microwave. But I have to be honest. I need this till Christmas because it broke, and then I was like, okay, now I can wait till Prime Day, and then I just waited for it. So yeah, that's what I do, and I think that's also what many people do. That they think like, yeah, okay, it's Prime Day. Let's wait for it.
Yeah, but I'm still sort of impressed by the numbers, I have to say, because everyone knows that you can still make good deals at Prime Day, but they're not exceptional normally.
That's true,
Yeah?
yeah.
So why not go over to Temu and get your microwave there, for example?
No. Actually, I ordered 2 weeks ago at Temu, but like all those things which are not important if they are not so well done. So like a Pilates ball, for example. Yeah, I don't care. But for my microwave, I really do care if it's if it's secure, right? And if all like the
not exploding in your kitchen.
things, and burning down my whole flat. So yeah, I really do care about special things, and there are some parts I would say I consider to go for Temu, but I also had to wait for I think 10 days or something. So it was like, yeah, you can do this, and it's like nice offers, but but not for the things I really want to have quality.
How important is Prime Day in the DIY industry, Inaki? Have you heard anything from colleagues or from brands, retailers? Are they taking part in that?
Well, I mean, for sure, they are taking part. Like, I don't have any official figures for this year. But I mean, I can tell you that Amazon was one of our keynote speakers in Rome in our Global DIY Summit this year. And of course, it always spreads a lot of interest to have Amazon there. It's the largest online player also in home improvement. We know that. And with the new strategy they have, with all the offers they have with retail media, many of our manufacturers are also participating in this. You can see IHEL ads, during the Champions League, stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure that many of our manufacturers and companies from the home improvement industry are really, really interested in Prime Day.
Yeah. Right. What else do you have? MediaMarkt Saturn is still expanding. They have now opened their marketplace in Italy, which comes at an interesting time, actually, because you might have seen that we did our country quadrants. We started doing our country marketplace quadrants, and the first one was about Italy. And it seems that I can already start updating that first one because the local hero Euro, which I've also got on my tableau for electronics, has announced a few days ago that the e-commerce channel is not that strategic for the company, and that they wanted to focus on more profitable channels in the future. They have been having a marketplace as well. So if they draw out, that of course leaves the door wide open for MediaMarkt. And the marketplace is now available there. So let's see how that plays out. Right. What else do I have? Douglas, yeah, something for you.
Yeah, please, beauty category.
Yes. Yeah, Douglas, I think it seems they're doing well because they raised their annual target and now want to grow by 8.5%. And they're selling an online pharmacy as well, but it seems they're concentrating on their main products and doing very well. So what do you hear about Douglas from the industry, Valerie?
Well, from the marketplace perspective, in terms of beauty and cosmetics, it's very important, actually. So, yes, we have here also Amazon.
Yeah.
But to be honest, we have in the cosmetics industry, we have like a lot of like well-known luxury brands, and they are still not on Amazon selling their like super high-value perfumes and so on. So this is more a place for Douglas. And the marketplace businesses, they are also growing. Sometimes always a bit like in restructuring phase, like focusing on which add-on categories do they do, because they also sell accessoires, for example, or like add categories which like, a good add-on to their existing categories. But yeah, it's actually they're growing there as well, and also in many countries. So it's a important partner.
And obviously doing well. Right. One last thing maybe for today, TikTok, because we have to wait for TikTok Shop a little longer in continental Europe after all, but there might be an alternative because TikTok has just launched a new creator tool for shoppable videos. It's called CapCut Commerce Pro, and creators can now create videos with a sales option. And these videos can not only be used on TikTok, but also on other video platforms, which I find very interesting. So that might be TikTok Shop coming through the back door in a way. So TikTok still very important topic for this year. What would you say, Valerie?
Yeah, it's like everyone is like really like, when does it come? And like
Yeah.
it got postponed. When is like the next official date to announce that they start in Europe? So everyone is like, yeah, when can we start? Like, yeah. So preparing, but not so sure. It's like it's like a bit like, I don't know. And yes, they say, and no, and it's like up and down, I would say. But really on the hot list, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. So that might be an option here. Inaki, I think TikTok should be a big topic for the DIY industry. I mean, all those great DIY projects that you could show there, that you could illustrate how to do things, how to build things and stuff. Has the industry noticed that already?
Yes, of course. And this is already since YouTube that you have the typical guy showing you how to fix your kitchen or your bathroom. And then that you have, all the products that you will need to fix your kitchen. Then they are, you can find all the links, on YouTube, all the manufacturers offering those products. So this is something that our industry already discovered a long time ago, working with influencers. But definitely the impact that TikTok has in younger generations, it's something that is crucial for us. Why? Because most of the users of TikTok are Generation Z, millennials, who are not real DIYers. It's mostly do it
Not
for
in the
me.
classical sense, yeah.
Do it for me.
Exactly. No, they are not baby boomers. Let's say that they go to the home improvement store and then they do the things themselves. Like this generation is not like that. So I mean, if our industry somehow wants to approach this generation, it has to be through projects that they, for example, if they want to refurbish their room in a creative way or something. TikTok is definitely the right channel to approach younger generations. And I'm pretty sure that most of our manufacturers are already aware of that.
I would be really interested, Ingrid. We had like a few episodes ago, we had Miss Pompadour on our podcast, right?
Yeah.
Like the wall color and like also kitchen colors and like the painting colors, actually. And they do a lot of like different videos and doing this on Instagram. And I don't know if they do it on TikTok too.
Oh, they do. They do. They're
right?
actually very successful on TikTok. Yeah, and they have been starting there. It's not that long ago, I think just last year or something.
Yeah,
it's quite recent, but it's going through the roof. And
Yeah,
I saw a post about that by Eric Reintjes, and he said that this TikTok is becoming so important for them. And they're doing just that, what Inaki said, not talking about big projects, but about refurbishing things and making your kitchen a bit more accessible and having this little life hack and this little DIY hack and something like that. So that's working out very well for them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think also that their clients sending them like before and after pictures and say like, look, we had like this before, and then we used the colors XYZ, and then now it looks like this afterwards, and that's actually always pretty impressive. I follow them on Instagram, so yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, they're a cool case for that. That's true. Right. So as we're already in the middle of the topic of DIY, I think we can just go over to the topic of the week now.
Topic of the week.
Right. So let's talk a bit more about DIY. Maybe to start things out, I looked up some figures for the German DIY market because that's where Valerie and me are based. So, for example, the e-commerce turnover for DIY and garden has risen by some 20% if you compare 2019 to 2023, because I've been talking about the pandemic, Inaki. And at the same time, offline turnover just grew by 5%. And about 38% of this e-commerce turnover runs through online marketplaces. But that being said, DIY is still, at least in Germany, mostly an offline party. Yeah, online turnover accounts for just around 7% maybe of all retail turnover in this category. So it's this is where the gold rush comes from. There's lots of of potential there to get. So these are my figures from Germany, Inaki, but you have a more European view with all your industry. So is German typical in its online reluctance in the DIY segment, or are other countries further ahead? What is the situation?
Yes. I'm going to give you an example that fits perfectly what you're saying. When I organize a Global DIY Summit, I organize a workshop with Amazon, to improve your online sales. And on the other hand, I organize a store tour to visit the stores, to meet the bricks and mortar retailers. And for the store tour, I have 380 participants. And for the workshop of Amazon, I have 10 participants. So I think that reflects more or less the figures that you are saying now. That is not only, it's an industry that is mostly an offline and bricks and mortar industry, but there are changes happening. And that's a reason why I contact you, like you mentioned before, in the past weeks, in the past months, to get to know better this unknown world of marketplaces. So talking about the global DIY market, first of all, we need to make a difference between DIY and home improvement. The difference varies from country to country. So I'm really not going to get into that, because then it could get really polemic, and we could organize a podcast just saying what is DIY and what is home improvement, which is not the purpose. But I just want to highlight something. The size of the global DIY market worldwide, according to our home improvement report worldwide, is around 481 billion. When you measure the global home improvement market, and here I highlight home improvement, then we're talking about 697 billion. And this is in 2022, both figures. The ones of 2023, we're working on them, and we're going to release the new data in September during our virtual DIY summit. But everything is indicating that the home improvement market grew again. So we are talking about big industry. What it's important to highlight is in the global, from a global perspective, the top 10 retailers worldwide, only 3 are coming from Europe. You have the 3 big players who are Grupo Adeo, Kingfisher, and Obi. Then the rest are from America, obviously Home Depot and Lowe's leading that market by far. And then the only one, which is not European, which is also in the top 10, is Bunnings in Australia. So you can see that this industry is mainly located in North America, Europe, and Australia. This means this kind of behavior of doing it yourself also is coming from countries that are more developed, worldwide. This is a perspective that I have from home improvement. But what is important to understand about the home improvement industry? It's not like the fashion industry. It's not like the like any other industry. It's very particular because in our industry we don't sell products as such. It's not that you go to the store and you see a dress and you buy it. No, it's not like that. When you go to a home improvement store, it's basically
projects or an idea of a project.
Exactly. You want to change something at home, or you need. That is the good part of home improvement, because sometimes you need to fix something, at home, and that is not as exciting as when you want to refurbish or you want to create a nicer, atmosphere where you're living. So that's very important. And later on, when we talk about online channel, this is a crucial topic, because a marketplace in home improvement is not going to look the same like other marketplaces because of the word you just said, Ingrid. It's based on projects. And the other one that I mentioned before is the audience. At the moment, we still have a lot of baby boomers and Generation X, doing DIY. But the industry is transforming into DIY to do it for me. So this is also an important change that we need to consider, especially when we talk about marketplaces and e-commerce. These are relevant information that afterwards we're going to talk more about. But this is a general overview of my industry.
Yeah, I would also say if you compare it when we have a look on the marketplace business to the fashion industry, where I'm coming from, right? I would say the DIY industry is really like in their baby feet, like let's say it like that, right? Where the fashion industry is much more mature. We don't need to tell them anymore, what is marketplace business? Where can you sell? How can you sell? These are the basics. They are already done there. But this is what we now do. Also, why we focus on the DIY industry even more with you and with Ingrid also. Because there's such a big opportunity for DIY and home improvement to just start with the marketplace business, to try it out, and that's super interesting.
If it's done well, though, because as you said, Inaki, it's a different approach to selling stuff online. It's not just a product. It's this idea that you're selling. This idea of have a nicer home, have a nicer kitchen, have something that you did yourself, and you might go into the store and you don't know already what your floor should be looking like in the future, but you decide there because you get consultation there and people telling you what to do and how to do it. So,
but really, I feel always, I'm not so often in this brick-and-mortar stores.
I am, actually.
Is there really consultancy anymore?
No. In home improvement, it is one of the most important things. Like in home improvement, the reason why someone goes to the store is because they need consultation. You don't go to a home improvement store just to buy nails just because you want nails. No, you go there.
My husband does. He would rather go through the whole store, not ask a single person, just look for their nails by himself. But in general, I get your idea. Yes.
Yes, you need the nails because you want to hang a picture or something. So there is another purpose, but the role of the store in home improvement is still very strong. And I can say it worldwide. For example, in April, I did a study tour with our International DIY Retail Association, and we went to visit Bunnings in Australia. In home improvement, you still have big boxes, and you have a lot of people, you have a lot of traffic going to stores. To these kind of stores, because somehow the industry has not moved into the online direction yet. Like as you said, Valerie, we're at a very early stage, and the manufacturers at this point, they are understanding that it is not about only logistics, but there is a lot of IT, of technology involved. They need to integrate all their systems to the marketplaces. So they are discovering this side, and the purpose, of talking with you and with experts like you is because our people are interested in getting to know the service providers that facilitate this job to them, integrating systems. So it's more IT technological than at this point retail, that this is what they are experts.
Mm-hmm. So how did the mindset shift there? Because what I hear from what you're telling us now is that the DIY industry is sort of proud to be a brick and mortar industry, because this is where you get all the things that you need for your project. This is where you get the consultation you need for a project. And there was this idea for a long time in the industry that in order to give that to the customer, you need to have a brick and mortar point of sale. So, but from what you told us before is that this perception is changing a bit, and that e-commerce is becoming more important, and of course marketplaces as well. So if you compare how the industry looked at the whole topic of online marketplaces 2 years ago and now, how has this changed?
Yeah, well, the shift to online was, it's something that we can demonstrate. For example, in 2018 to 2019, Hornbach had online sales of 10.1% of the group sales, increasing to 17.2% in 2021, 2022. And this year it is around 12%. So there was, before the pandemic, we can talk that they had a percentage of 10% in these online sales. Then during the pandemic and a little bit after the pandemic, it went above 15%. And now they are around 12% and 14%. And I think that these are figures that other retailers in Europe have similar figures like Hornbach. So for me, the shift, and this is a personal opinion, was the pandemic. Like I mentioned before, like the fact that you have a global workshop where everyone is forced to move into digitalization. Because I remember in 2019, I was already talking about AI at the Global DIY Summit, but most of the companies were still bricks and mortar, So the pandemic in 2020, what accelerates is that. I have a very nice story about a garden retailer in Spain, coming from where my family comes from, Basque Country in northern Spain. And she was telling me, how during the pandemic, because in Spain, all the home improvement and garden stores, they had to close. And the only way to sell their products was online. So, they started their digitalization processes through the most, probably, you that are experts in marketplaces, you would be shocked of what I'm saying, but the most simple things, start selling on WhatsApp and then with the neighbors, and then they share the WhatsApp. And, that changed the logistics of the garden center, because suddenly the woman was telling me in one of the dinners I had in Valencia last year, she was like, yeah, at some point I got so many orders that I didn't have all the plants that they were ordering, and then they started having these kind of troubles. So for me, the pandemic opened the retailer's mind that, okay, we have another piece of a bigger cake if we go online, but we need to learn how to do it.
Right. So, as you say, the interest is there now, and also the realization that there is a bigger cake to get. But not necessarily the knowledge, especially the technical knowledge for everything that you need for e-commerce and marketplace business. So, what would you say are the digital forerunners in your industry? Which companies would you say are really ahead of the game when it comes to that?
Well, the first one I think about is Mano Mano, because they started in 2013 in France.
But that's a pure online company in any way, so.
Yes, but they were the ones that started talking about marketplace home improvement. According to the information I did some research, etc. Grupo Adeo started in 2017 in Brazil. And of course, now most of the big retailers, they have a market. Like, for example, Obi, they have their own marketplace. They have around 20,000 articles in stock. And Kingfisher, with their marketplace DIY.com, they already announced that they have an ambition that 30% of group sales come from e-commerce channels, and 1/3 of which from marketplace. So we are talking about these figures, and for me, the Forerunners, of course, at this point, we are talking about the biggest retailers in Europe, for example, the ones I have knowledge, Kingfisher, Obi, Hornbach, Germany. But if we're talking about a country that is a Forerunner, we have to talk about the UK, because, I mean, they started already in the 90s and the 2000s through catalog retailers like Argos, Gillette, Screwfix, and Mothercare. And then this shift from catalog shopping to online shopping was relatively straightforward as the internet became more accessible and prevalent. So for me, the UK, in Europe, of course, the United States, of course, I mean, there is where Amazon comes from and where all these online channels started. And the way I see it now are the retailers are becoming, like the phoenix, like they are starting to learn how to deal with the online channel, and they are becoming really attractive places, which, in my opinion, is going to empower them more with the relationship with the manufacturers.
And Inaki, if I want to learn now more about DIY industry, the marketplace industry together, I think you have something planned in the near future, right?
Sorry, there was a problem with the connection. Can you repeat the question? Because I had a problem. Yeah.
Sure. Well, I think if I want to learn something now more about marketplace business and DIY business, there's something you have planned in the near future, right?
Yeah, of course. And you are pretty much involved in this. So, yes, this year I received a mandate from our associations and the leaders of the retail companies that we represent. And they understand that the industry is finally changing. So they told me that it was necessary to offer to all our members and our companies a new perspective on marketplaces and to develop new events, new places where the people from our industry can interact and network with the people from the marketplace, service providers, people that enable companies to offer these kinds of services. So we came to the idea, we have a virtual DIY summit happening in September, at the end of September. And there we are mainly going to talk about topics. We're going to talk about marketplaces and sustainability, because the audience attending this kind of events is a younger audience. And I would say that these are the two things that, at least in home improvement, raise the attention of young audience: marketplaces and sustainability. So this is where Ingrid mentioned before. I was on LinkedIn, waking up, and then I checked my LinkedIn and I saw this fabulous quadrant of home improvement where you have to access going from everything marketplace to specialized marketplace and budget segment to specialized retail and premium segment. And then you were locating all the retailers there and the marketplaces. And I was like, wow. I mean, I just received a mandate from my presidents, the two associations, and then I find it. So I contact you both, and then we started the conversation, and I discovered a whole new world for me and for the industry. So basically, the project that we have is to show this also to the rest of the stakeholders of the home improvement industry. because we believe this is going to grow faster in the next 2 and 3 years. So we want that the Global DIY Summit, that our associations are part of this growth. We want to lead this movement together, and hopefully also together with you, our friends from Marketplace Universe.
Yeah, well, actually, that's how it is, and how we met. And I was first like, "What is Global DIY Summit?" And then I told Ingrid, and she was like, "What is this?" And then we researched. We were like, "Whoa, okay, how could we miss this?" And then we started conversations, and now we are planning for also our listeners, obviously. On the 27th of September, we plan a whole day of the virtual DIY Summit, which is online happening and free to attend. So we would love to invite you all there. We also share the link in our show notes, and we will also speak a lot about in our LinkedIn channels and newsletters about this event happening. And we will also be on stage next year, right? What is planned for next year, Inaki?
Yes, for next year, I mean, we also have a plan for the Global DIY Summit, which is happening in Lisbon from the 11th to the 13th of June. And there we are going to have 90 minutes session only talking about marketplaces. We're going to invite a lot of service providers, and then the manufacturers and retailers will have time to network in a dedicated area in our exhibition. With all these new people, what we want is to integrate all the stakeholders from marketplace, especially the ones related to home improvement, to bring them to our corporates, and hopefully develop a new event, a spin-off of the Global DIY Summit, which is purely related to marketplaces.
Mm-hmm. Seems like I will have a lot of work to do in updating our marketplace quadrant regularly, because there's lots of work to do and lots of new things to discover here. So I will be doing that for the Virtual DIY Summit on September 27th, as Valerie said. We'll be there on stage talking about how to enter this new exciting world of marketplaces. And we'll also have a panel discussion, which I, in my mind, am now calling as a working title, How to Marketplace. I'm still working on that one, but the idea is to dive deeper into all these questions that you, Inaki, told us about, what the industry now needs to know is how to do it, how to connect to the marketplaces, what kind of tools and software and technical setup they need in the back end to do that, and we're going to discuss that there.
Oh.
So yeah.
Well, I can give you already, because obviously I did my homework and I went talked to some of my manufacturers and retailers and asked them what are the main challenges that they are having, to integrate their systems with marketplaces, and especially how difficult it is to deliver a good service, D2C. So what they told me is that the most important driver is delivery time, and this is the main challenge they are having. Also pricing, because this transition they had from being a vendor to becoming a seller. This means that they decide on the final price. So this is also a big challenge that they are having, pricing. The content in terms of marketing, I can also highlight customer service, because they are responsible to answer to the final consumer. And if they don't answer within 24 hours, they receive a fine, etc. from marketplaces. So this is also an issue. The product reviews, we all know, when I go to Amazon, I also buy a product that is rated with 2 stars. The product availability, because they have to be aware that everything that they are offering in the marketplaces, they really have it in stock, and it's a big challenge. The seller rating, which is another thing that they care about, the assortment and advertising, retail.
So basically everything.
Yeah, I was like, what's not a challenge for them? It's like literally the whole marketplace business is a challenge for them.
Yes, but this is new, when they come and, they have the logistics department, the controlling department, the marketing department, the customer service department, the manufacturing department, all talking together, and they are, shocked, like, oh my God, this is new.
But we also, so new.
Exactly. But we also have to say that it's a small percentage of their business at the moment.
Yeah.
So at this point, it is an early stage, that they are learning how to do it. But I mean, when this is also something empowering the retailer, because what they do is they sell the brand and they then bring traffic to the marketplace. That's true. Like, I mean, at the end, the retailer, the only thing that they have to provide is the platform. But for them, they become a seller. So that means that they can decide on the final price, that they are responsible for the whole process to deliver the product to the final consumer. So this also empowers in some way the manufacturer. So my guess with all this project is that it's a win-win. It's going to be a win-win for both sides, depending on how they develop. There are, of course, risks and challenges, like everything, but probably we can leave that for another podcast and conversation. But there are, of course, some risks.
Right. Yeah.
Just a few ones.
Just a few ones. Yeah, but this is where this idea of a gold rush is coming from, because there's so much to learn in a relatively short time. And compared to other industries, you have the advantage to seeing the proof of this in other industries before. So you could see, okay, electronics went the same way. Yeah, they went the same way basically a few years ago. When there were discussions there as well about, okay, you can only sell a TV in the brick and mortar store. You have to have that kind of consultation, and without it, it won't work. Yeah. Obviously, it does. So that industry has already proven that e-commerce and marketplace business is a very big cake to tackle.
Yes, Ingrid. But something very important to highlight for the home improvement industry at this point, because of the kind of products that we sell. Because one thing is selling, a power. I mean, it's very easy there. You can see that you can easily make a profit, no, if you sell it online. Yeah. But other products, I mean, I've been talking to some of our members, and they say, some of them, I don't want to say all of them, but some of them say that they need an average price of a bundle, a group of products that they have to cost around 25 euros to make a profit.
Yeah.
And some of them, the average that they are reaching now with the bundles that they are selling is 11 euros. So at this point, for some of them, we can say that the online commerce is still not profitable. And this is an issue that in an early stage, I mean, I'm sure that it's going to change with the time, but we have to talk about profitability. Like at this point, this is a major challenge for marketplaces in our industry.
Yeah, so there's differences, right? There's like this profitability. There's also heavy bulky. We have also a listeners in our in one of one client or like contact, and they're selling fences online on marketplaces pretty well. So we might have him also in one of our future podcast episodes. But right now I think we have to make a cut, because we're so much over time already. So you see, we have a lot of things to talk about. There will be coming so much more, as we have so many big events, and also a huge collaboration with Inaki planned. And we want to invite you to the virtual DIY summit on the 27th of September. We will be there in person, but you can stream it online the whole day, and also record it afterwards. So Ingrid, first of all, thank you, Inaki.
Yes.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you to both of you. It's really a pleasure to talk to you.
And Ingrid, what are we doing next week?
Next week is an episode right down my alley. We've invited Friedrich, the founder of Statista and e-commerce DB, to the show. And with him, I will let my inner figure nerd geek way to my heart's content. So better prepare for a deep dive into how reliable figures for e-commerce are made, and how you could find out which numbers to trust and which maybe to bin. So that's going to be an interesting one.
Okay. Yeah, well, and after that, it's summertime in Bavaria. So Ingrid and I will take us slow for a few weeks. in August. So Let's Talk Marketplace goes back to a bi-weekly format, but the topics remain just as interesting and deep divey as you know us already. And we will talk about cross-border taxation, for example, an unescapable topic for every brand selling internationally. So better follow up our podcast now so you won't miss that. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you.
You listen to Let's Talk Marketplace,
The Marketplace podcast with Ingrid Lommer and Valerie Dichtel.